Now, I'm turning mine over. You don't have to, but I can't reach the camera without it. So you can just do it underneath it. We're going to do an animal cell. Animal. Okay. And what we're talking about here then is you remember the prokaryote and eukaryote, that vocabulary? These are the eukaryotes. Okay. They have nucleus and they have the complex structure. So let's make this pretty big. Don't make it take the whole page because we need to have room outside of it. And we can make it shaped kind of whatever we want, sort of blob-like, right? And so what this boundary is that controls what goes in and out and holds the cell all together, let's label that one. You know what it is. What is that? Say it. Say it. Okay, that is the cell membrane. Membrane. Now, I could have written cell membrane, or I could have actually written plasma membrane, it's sometimes called. But there's the membrane. It holds together. Okay. Holds the cell together and controls what goes in and out. Holds together. Gives it some kind of structure and controls what goes in and out. See, it's not that hard to write this stuff. I'm doing it. And I'm like an old guy. You guys are in the vigor of youth. And you can do it. Like Mr. Davis. We've been in Zooms all day long. Well, just do it. Okay. So controls what goes in and out. Yeah, I want you to know that's what goes on. And I'll tell you, in high school biology, or in college biology, when you get into more detail about how it works, it's really, really cool. But I just don't want to, cram too much stuff into your heads at once. So the membrane's one thing. Now, we also need to know sort of the genetic stuff, or not generic stuff. Everything that's kind of inside here. It's called, what's this stuff called? The sort of the fluid cytoplasm. Cytoplasm. And, I could say the goo inside of the cell, and that'd be all right. Whatever. It's just called cytoplasm. A lot of people think of it as the fluid that everything's inside, which is technically not right, but I don't care if you say that. It's fine with me. Technically, the stuff that's floating, the fluid is called cytosol, and the cytoplasm would be just, including all the other stuff like the endoplasmic reticulum and stuff. Okay, so we got membrane, cytoplasm. And when you make your cell model, I'm going to want you to, tell what it does. You already got that. I don't see a reason to write it down now. And inside, looks like a fried egg now, doesn't it? Inside of it is a structure called the what? The what? Nucleus. Again, I've mentioned this before. It's not pronounced nucleus, it's nucleus. Oh, rats, my, what do you call it? My focus just went kablooey. Hopefully it'll adjust. Anyway, nucleus. Oh, rats. Okay, it's autofocus thing. Okay, I got it to focus again. All right, so the nucleus. Okay, now the nucleus, we could just say the control center of the cell. Okay, I'll just say control center. And here's something I want you to know. It has the DNA. And like I've mentioned before, I'm not keeping it a secret. Where we're working toward is what this DNA is inside the nucleus and how it works in the cell to control it. Okay, codes for proteins. Okay, so it has the DNA in there. And, there's also this other thing in there called the nucleus where ribosomes are made. I'm not going to include that. When we get learning about it, we'll see that the DNA, when the cell is about to divide, it forms these things called chromosomes. You ever heard of that? Yeah, well, that's the DNA. You can't see the chromosomes most of the time while it's functional, only when it's reproducing, but there you go. So I'm going to draw it like that. All right, so it has the nucleus, is the control center. All right, now there's these structures inside of there. Each and every cell of your body has these. By the way, each and every cell in your body has a nucleus too, kind of except for the red blood cells, strangely enough. They don't really need a nucleus because all they do is transport oxygen and they just float around or get pumped around in the bloodstream. But inside of these are these structures, and you got to have them. And what these things do is release the energy from the sugars, the bloodstream. Its job is to deliver sugars, food, to the cell so it has the energy to survive, to go on. It's in the form of sugar called glucose. Well, the mitochondria, these little guys, and there's like thousands in each cell, or at least hundreds, let's say. What they do is release the energy from the sugar. They do what's called the cellular respiration happens in there. And by the way, they are about the size of a bacteria, and they have their own nucleus, or excuse me, their own DNA, just like a bacteria does. These guys, billions of years ago, would have been like a foreign invader in the cell, and they set up shop and established a symbiotic relationship where now life has descended to have these things in there. This is kind of hilarious. Your DNA doesn't code for making mitochondria. In fact, where it comes from, how you get them, is in the egg that your mother produces, right? That has the mitochondria already in it from mom. And so then when every time that cell divides to become one of your cells, carries mitochondria along with them. And they just split and divide on their own. Pretty cool. And so there's this thing called mitochondrial DNA. You can do the lineage through the mother, the matrilineal lineage. So these are called mitochondria. Okay, mitochondrium would be one of them. So the mitochondria, these do is they release the energy, right? And that's sometimes called the powerhouse of the cell. What I think is hilarious is have you ever seen a powerhouse? Do you even know what that is? What it is in the olden days when they first had electricity, they would have, in the cities, they would have every neighborhood would have its own electrical generation system. And that was the powerhouse, right? And so it's kind of that is kind of obsolete too. But that's where the name comes from. And I'm going to stick with it because I guess I'm a traditionalist. The powerhouse of the cell. And it releases the energy of the sugar. What it really does, it converts the glucose into something called ATP, which can be used instantly by the proteins to move things around. It makes the proteins change shape. Okay, so mitochondria, powerhouse of the cell.